ADS Play 101 here, also known as ADS Play 202 on TikTok. If you guys are not following me on either platform, ADS Play 101 on YouTube, ADS Play 202 on TikTok, you know the vibes. In this episode of Vlog Style 202, we're going to be talking about the recent passings of celebrities that have been hitting us kind of hard in the month of July. I mean, it's been quite a few of them. A couple disclaimers though. One, I won't be playing any music or any audio clips due to the fact that I know that, especially on TikTok, uh, as much as I would like to, in order to make reference of the things that I'm going to discuss, uh, there's some, I, at least when it comes to me, TikTok seems to have it in for me when it comes to any type of copyright anything. And I'm talking about I can upload something that has nothing to do with anything and they will literally find a problem with it. It has happened before. I've made videos about all that stuff and I'm not going to give them any reason to, you know what I'm saying, try to come after me in this video. Secondly, I'm going to refrain um, from, you know, playing any audio clips or music because of YouTube, because YouTube is basically the same thing. You know, they're more uh, equal with as far as like the copyright nonsense and all that. But I just don't want to deal with none of that. I'm kind of playing a playthrough right now when I'm already dealing with copyright on those issues, or I keep having to fight them. So I just don't want to have to deal with that in this video. So unfortunately, the video is going to be kind of bland. It's not going to have any pizzazz. I would like to play some background music, but I just can't do it due to those factors. So please be understanding. Um, so yeah, this month of July has been one of the more, even though it's kind of been that way all year, there have been some pretty notable deaths that have happened as far as celebrities go. First off, rest in peace to anybody who passed in the month of July. Personal family members, family members, spouses, children. Like regardless of what the reason behind it was, I just want to say rest in peace because oftentimes celebrities they get the attention because they're the ones in the limelight, and other people they don't get their just due. So let me just say that. Secondly, I'm not going to be talking about every celebrity, obviously, because I'm on the website right here. This is let me see what this is. This is 13newsnow.com. This is an article that they did, basically documenting most of the celebrity passings that have happened in the month of July. And mind you, we still have like 5 days until this. 5 days, so 6 days until this month is over, and ain't no telling what else is going to happen. But they have most of the celebrity passings that have happened. I'm going to talk about two of them that they didn't get. So definitely we're going to be hitting those up. So I'm not going to be talking about everybody, just a few of the ones that kind of hit me the hardest, and give my opinions on them. So looking down on this list, so first starting, there's Alex Del Chivio, and I might mess some of these names up. He passed away July 1st. He was a three-time Stanley Cup winner, played for the Detroit Reds, for the Detroit Red Wings. He's in Hockey Hall of Fame. He passed on the first. Then on the third, Michael Madison. He was a legendary actor. And he collaborated with Quentin Tarantino, obviously Kill Bill 2, on the Reservoir Dogs, the Hateful Eight, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Thelma and Louise, Free Willy, 1993, scary movie. He died of natural causes, and when I see that, anytime you hear about certain celebrities passing, right, it's like the ones that hit you the hardest are the ones where it was like either they were too young when they passed or they died from some freak accident or some random event that just is like, wow, this happened. But when they pass away from natural causes, it's like, okay, they lived a full life, and that's basically how you would want to go, or at least that's how I would want to go. Just natural causes, maybe, you're getting up there in age, the organs ain't working like they used to, and you just, you end up, just going to sleep and you don't wake up. So that's a more peaceful way to go. Next up after him is Bobby Jinks. Now they missed one in between these two, between Michael Jinks and Michael Madison and Bobby Jinks. Now Bobby Jinks, he was a two-time All-Star World Series champion for the Chicago White Sox. Um, he passed away on the 5th. There was actually one that happened on the 4th, and I'm going to talk about that one. That's going to be the first one. Where is it? Noble, right here. So this is Young Noble. For those of you who don't know who this is, I'm pretty sure some of you know about the legendary rapper Tupac. Activist, a very well-known dancer for Digital Underground, which was a rap group back in like the '90s. He was a backup dancer for them, and then he started rapping. Um, yeah, Tupac, a very knowledgeable poet, activist. Parents were Black Panthers, or his mother was a Black Panther. Uh, and he brought that spirit to his music. He had a group called the Outlaws, and at least up until July 4th, uh, there were three surviving members: Edie Amin, Napoleon, and Young Noble. These were like the three surviving members. Big Syke, he passed away first, I think. Then it was Gaddafi. He was the light skinned one. For those of you who don't know, he was the light skinned one in the group. He passed away. Well, I'm not gonna mention how they died, but he ended up passing away. And then Hussein Fatal, he passed away after him. And so Edi, Mean, Young Noble, and Napoleon were the last three surviving members of that group. And on July 4th, unfortunately, we lost Young Noble. And to people who aren't into hip hop and things like that, you probably don't care nothing about this. To people who pay attention to hip hop, especially if you're still a fan of Tupac and his music, this is like a big deal to us. You know what I mean? Because we paid attention to his interview. I think his last interview was with Vlad, where he kind of told his life story, talked about Tupac, of course, things like that. He was still doing music. Um, he was still doing pretty good, but and without me going too deep into it, I believe he was on like medications for like depression. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I do not want to misquote this. Please correct me if I'm wrong to anybody out there. But he was, under the influence, and unfortunately, he ended up passing. Uh, you know, put it like this: you can look it up, and it's kind of right there in Google. You can see it. Uh, but rest in peace, Young Noble. I don't know what he was going through, but definitely a legend, definitely like a very influential member for those who paid attention to his career. He got music. He actually did two albums. I know a lot of people are fans of Bone Thugs and Harmony. He got an album with Lazy Bone called Thug Brothers, and then he did a part two with Crazy Bone. Matter of fact, I think it's down here at the bottom. Yeah, right here. Like he did a part two with Crazy Bone. So go check those albums out. Real nice pieces of work. But they didn't get that one. They didn't get that one. Kenneth Coley, um, he played in Empire Strikes Back. Uh, he died on third. He passed away on third from pneumonia. James Carter Cathart. He was James in Meowth from Pokemon, and I know the voice actor for Jessie. She passed away like years prior. So this for us in our childhood, this is like a big blow. I seen pictures earlier this month on TikTok, and with TikTok they have so many of these fake uh, trends and videos where it's like, oh, this celebrity has died and things like that. So when they said him, I kind of didn't pay any attention to it because for one, I didn't know the voice actors by name when I was a kid. I wasn't, obviously I wasn't looking up voice actors and things like that. But when I found out that, okay, this is the guy who voiced James for Team Rocket, I was like, oh damn. So, and then to find out that, the voice actor for Jesse passed away years, but that right there is kind of like, that kind of hit me in my childhood. I'm not gonna lie, I already shed my tears and all that, but Team Rocket blast off for the final time, man, and that right there was yeah, that was a blow to the childhood. Joe Coleman, another one, All Star with Detroit. Uh, you know, Connie Francis. This is one that kind of caught me off guard because I didn't know who she was. I was this was one of those where it's like, okay, she's a singer from the 1950s, but it's like, what songs has she done? And then she did like Pretty Little Baby and Who's Sorry Now, and then you listen to the songs, it's like, oh, I remember hearing this, here and there, and so rest in peace to her. Then we have Alan Bergman, and hold on, before we get to let me Alan Bergman, damn, that pop up, Oscar award-winning lyricist. You see his work right there. It was one guy that passed away, I think yesterday or today. He was like a Polynesian reggae singer, George Vekoso, and he passed away on the 23rd. So this was 2 days ago, and his name wasn't on this list, or rather, I didn't see it the first time I looked. Maybe I skipped him, but I just want to put him out there. He made some great music. I heard a couple of his songs here and there. Ain't heard him in a long time, but uh, I've heard his music, off and on, saying like throughout the years. So definitely, like I said, I wish I could play some of the music. If you hear the music, you'll probably be more familiar with who he is, because it's like a lot of people sometimes they hear songs and it's like, or rather, they hear the name of an artist or of a singer or a rapper or something like that, and they don't know who they are. But as soon as they hear the song of that person, or like a popular song of that person, then they're something in their minds clicking like, oh, that's who that is. And it's like it's one of those situations for me. So rest in peace to George. Of course, we have a D-Day veteran, Papa Jake, Tom Trope, Malcolm Jamar Warner. And this is the guy that played Theo Huxtable as a kid in The Cosby Show. Of course, he played other things like Suits, and he had a couple other gigs out there that was, he was doing real well for himself. He ended up passing away in like Costa Rica. I mean, again, you can see right there. It's certain words I can't say because of TikTok, but uh, yeah, he ended up passing in an accidental, drowning. Um, and this is one of the ones that kind of got us, man. It was just out of nowhere. This one still kind of hits, what I'm saying? Being that I was, you know, I'm not gonna say that like I was like the biggest fan of his work. I didn't have nothing against him. It's just that I don't watch TV like that. I don't watch TV. I'll watch an interview on YouTube before I watch, TV. Um, so I wasn't as familiar with his work outside of the Cosby Show, but I know he was doing well for himself. Cause I seen interviews, things like that. I seen a speech that he did at, I believe it was like a concert or something like that, where he was basically speaking to America about the black lives that were being lost, and what I'm saying, black struggles and things like that. And it was a very heartfelt speech. You could tell. Um, and he did his thing with that speech, but he was a very solid brother, very like you don't he was one of those people whose name you didn't really hear anything bad about in Hollywood, because people are quick to throw out names anytime a celebrity does something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where it's just like it just happens. You know what I'm saying? And it but this one caught us off guard. It was like, damn, he still, as I mentioned earlier, when you have certain celebrities that you grew up watching and they don't pass away from natural causes or things like that, and it's just like a freak accident that happened, just like out of nowhere. Like as is with his case, you know, these guys, they still had like a lot of life left to live. They didn't have any notable illnesses or that we know of, or they weren't going through any depressive things that we knew of or anything like that. He was with his family. Like he kept his family like private off the internet, which I do commend, because sometimes the internet be quick to find out who your spouse is or your kids is, and they got some wicked people in the world that just try to throw out these false narratives just to get you in trouble. And they do that to regular people. So with celebrities, they can't wait to get them. So he made sure to keep his family life private, and they looked happy and like they were doing real good. And it's crazy this just happened on like a random trip, that vacation that they were just having. So what I'm saying? Rest in peace, Michael Jamal Warner. Ozzy Osbourne. This is another one. This was another one that, let me be very clear. Rock and roll, heavy metal are not my genres of music like that. I'll listen to a couple songs here and there, but even though I don't listen to the music as much, um, there are some figures in there again, because I literally watch a lot of interviews. I watch a lot of little clips of maybe concerts here and there, and of course I watch wrestling, which is what we're going to get to next. Um, Ozzy Osbourne was like a larger than life figure. Of course everybody knows about him biting off the bat head, and you know him doing shows with um WWE, and his contributions to music. Like the man is just a walking. He was a walking legend. You know what I mean? Like he oozed charisma. That was just him. Like Ozzy, like you can't say enough about what he gave. The Osbournes, his whole family. You know, as a matter of fact, I think at one point, didn't he have like a TV show or like a reality show or something like that? I'm pretty sure one of y'all will tell me about it. Like I think he had like a reality show called The Osbournes or something like that. I could be wrong, but that was a cool show back when I was watching TV. But yeah, Ozzy, he's definitely one of those multi generational talents. Because since a kid, what I'm saying, been watching him again in the WWE music award shows. You know what I'm saying, just being the legend that he was. He definitely lived it up. You know what I'm saying? So we just gonna leave it at that. He definitely lived it up. So that one right there, that felt different. But speaking in WWE, Hulk Hogan. Now I kind of want to say something about this, because it's a very sensitive topic to a lot of people. Because on one side, you have people saying "Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan," and on the other side, you have people saying "F Hulk Hogan." And the people who are saying F Hulk Hogan are the people that look like me. Um, and if you heard about any of the rants that Hogan did, all you got to do was go to YouTube and pull up them leaked conversations, and you're gonna know why. So you got a lot of people, especially when it comes to like like the wrestling world, like TNA, of course, WWE, AEW, and any other wrestling podcasts out there, like Chris Valet, uh, etc. These guys are all making rest in peace posts. Here's the thing I want people to understand, right? The wrestling world is completely biased, right? They're completely focused on the wrestling business. The wrestlers that are involved in the wrestling business, or legends of wrestling that are still, with us today, they're focused on the contributions that those wrestlers made to the business to carry it far, to carry it up until the point where it is right now. And to the wrestling business, Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan's contributions are immeasurable. He is credited with being the man to bring global eyes to wrestling. Obviously him being like the first major, superstar, the first megastar who was in movies to a lot of to a lot of people. He was like, he was like the greatest. He was like when it came to building the modern day foundation of wrestling, he was the foundation of that. He really made some notable contributions to the wrestling business, and you can't dispute that. This is historic. Most of us grew up watching him during that time. This man was the wrestling business to a lot of people, and you talk to many celebrities, many wrestlers. Hulk Hogan was the end all be all. What I'm saying, at one point. So, and probably still was. What I'm saying, like you couldn't put nothing else beside his name outside, like besides legend, until the racist stuff came up. And a lot of people didn't even know that he did these rants because they don't look for it. Like they don't go out looking for, or rather, they just mind their business and they're not paying attention to like scandals and controversy and things like that. Um, and this is one of those things that kind of leaves a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouths. Now, this is how I look at it, right? Again, with the wrestling business, you can't expect them to look at anything else besides what concerns wrestling. Hulk Hogan concerns, the wrestling business. They're going to put up rest in peace posters because he is a wrestling legend. They're going to do that. So you can't be mad at the wrestling business paying tribute to one of the most notable names in the business. You just can't. And for me, like that's the wrestling fan in me. But then I have to ask myself, and this is just for like I'm talking strictly to black folks, right? Well, with this next little piece, you have to ask yourself, what were you first? Was you a black person first, or were you a wrestling fan first? You know what I'm saying? Like out of the two, you of course you always got them neutral people that's going to try to throw up like, oh, you were a human first and all that. And like, nah, you were black first. And this man said some pretty ridiculous things, some pretty dehumanizing things, where he was on conversations talking about how uh, he didn't want his daughter basically having sex with a black guy. Mind you, I'm paraphrasing like a mofo because he used the N word with the hard ER when he said this. And this is what, in that leaked conversation, is what got him kicked out of the WWE Hall of Fame. Eventually, years later down the line, they reinstated him back into the Hall of Fame, but they kicked him out for that. And then there was another conversation that he had where I think his son, I can't, his son did something and landed himself in jail. I think he was like driving drunk or something like that. And Hulk Hogan, he made again another conversation he had. He said, you know, he didn't want, he believes karma is real, and he didn't want his son to basically die and be reincarnated as a black guy. He was literally like dehumanizing black people. So to the white people out there and to the black folks that just want to ignore, you know what I'm saying? You can't ask black people who don't say rest in peace to Hulk Hogan. You can't ask them to say rest in peace to that. Mind you, this was during his later years. Some of these rants that he went on was, I think, as recent as like 3 or 4 years ago, within like the past 4 years. So this is like recent stuff. Like, this is the way this man was thinking. That's why when he came out, I think it was at Raw. I don't remember which episode it was. It was like last month or the month before that. He came out to promote his real American beer or something like that, and the crowd was booing him because he did this stuff. Like, he yeah, it's kind of hard for, and I'm seeing videos where people are saying like, what I'm saying, Hulk should be forgiven for the things he said. I mean, You might have had an argument if this was like he said this stuff back in the 90s or like the early 2000s, and then years later he apologized for it and he changed his ways and his stances and all that. But this is stuff that this man has went out of his way. Oh, this is stuff that this man has went out of his way to say, not once, not twice, but I believe like three times. At least two or three times he went on rants about how much he didn't like black people. You cannot tell black people or even request from black people to say rest in peace to somebody that does that type of stuff. So, I know there's some people out there that feel like there's a way you can separate the art from the artist. I don't believe in that. I believe, it's the artist who makes the art. So, I mean, you have to look at it like this. If you're a fan of Star Wars, right? And you meet somebody, and let's say that this guy that you meet is like the greatest Star Wars collector of all time. I'm talking about he has damn near everything in mint condition, or maybe even she has everything in mint condition. I'm talking about they've been collecting uh figurines, toys, movies, and everything like that since like the 70s. They got VCR tapes, they got collectibles, they got cups. Everything is in pristine mint condition, and they've preserved it for anybody that wants to come see. And this guy or this woman is known as the greatest Star Wars collector of all time. And you being a Star Wars fan yourself, you look at that and be like, "Oh, this is crazy." But this person is beating up on their spouse every day, just physically abusing them. Like, how can you then look at that person and be like, this is somebody that you admire? You know what I'm saying? At that point, morally, it's like, damn, the hobby that I respect you for, I can't respect you if you're out here doing this. And that's kind of what Hulk Hogan. And some people will never understand that because they always try to circle around, or they try to circle around the issue instead of going through it. Like, they try to avoid talking about it. Like, this circle represents the problem. They always try to go towards the problem and then like skip over it. They never want to go through it, because going through it, they would have to face the hypocrisy of them being uh so blindly ignorant to the negative stuff that they've done. Or it might make them unpopular amongst their group of people because they have to acknowledge that this person did some pretty, effed up stuff. So Hogan was really one of those people where it's just, I don't know. It's like, yeah, you contributed, but you in your later years, like this is like recent years, you said some pretty effed up stuff, man. So to any black person that doesn't say R.I.P. Hulk Hogan, hey, I'm you really can't say anything to him. So to all you white people, what I'm saying, y'all can, stay mad. And Chuck Mangione, final person on the list so far. Hopefully we don't get any more before this month is over, bro. Because based on this list, like, we've had enough. But Chuck Mangione, I think he's more popular for the episode of King of the Hill that he did. But he did some pretty good music. He was a legendary uh, um, jazz musician. Played the trumpet. Pretty good music, man. Like I said, I wish I could play some of the music that he did, but the man, he was doing, like, he did some pretty good stuff. You know what I'm saying? He was a Grammy Award winning musician. Oh, as it states right here, two-time Grammy Award winning musician. And yeah, the man did some pretty good things in his life. So that was another one that kind of got us. But yeah, man, this is the list of the celebrities that, it just seems like this month, they maybe because they happen so quick back to back, and a lot of these were just out of nowhere. It kind of caught us off guard this month. But rest in peace to a lot of these people, man. Of course, Hulk. But for the most part, rest in peace to everybody on this list. Um, Yeah, this month needs to chill out. Like literally, like you got 6 days left. Like you can relax. Like we don't need any more. You know what I'm saying? Hell, this was enough for the rest of the year. This was more than enough for the rest of the year. Let's just, you know what I'm saying? Let's just chill out. Let's not do no more for the rest of the year. All right. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was July 25th episode of Vlog Style 202. Hopefully, in the future, I can start getting people, you know, on these vlogs. At least that's what I plan to do, and get other, and maybe get different people's perspectives on things like this. But yeah, make sure you guys hit that follow button. If you're on TikTok, hit that follow button. If you're on YouTube, if you're on TikTok, hit the follow button. If you're on YouTube, you guys can hit the subscribe button and just keep up to date. And I will see you guys next time for more Vlog Style 202.